Hello, welcome to this tutorial video. This one's going to be focusing on the English language exam, and it's basically looking at the mark scheme of last year's exam as well as last year's paper. The reason we're going to be doing this is just so you can see exactly what the examiner was looking for in certain things, because people are asking how you get full marks, etc. And people are also asking me with regards to going through a paper like this, so hopefully it'll be of some use to you. The first thing you should actually notice that AQA have put in a kind of disclaimer just here. It must be stressed that the mark scheme is a working document and in many cases have developed and expanded on the basis of candidates' reactions to a particular paper. Basically, because this is a new exam, they're saying here we have the right to change some things, etc., etc. So for any changes that do come in from the mark scheme for next time, obviously I can't be held responsible. This is AQA's way of saying that, similar to some condom packets, that they're only 99.99999% effective and nothing can be 100% effective. So I will put in AQA's disclaimer. Obviously, if you are going to be marked slightly differently, which I doubt very much, then obviously that's going to be considered now that I've actually pointed that out to you. So we go on then straight away to the first question, and obviously in this new paper that you've got this mock booklet here where you just have to fill everything in the actual piece rather than getting all the the exam booklet rather than getting all of the questions and then just writing them on paper, so you know exactly which one you're responding to. And that's actually quite a good idea because some students did mess up the numbering, believe it or not. So we start with the first question. Obviously the first thing I always look at to give you an indication here is the amount of marks. The amount of paper or space that they actually give you is quite deceptive. I mean, whether you need to write 2 full pages to get the 8 marks, I wouldn't sincerely say you have to write 2 full pages, because remember, it's always going to be quality, not quantity. So here the question: what do you learn from Elizabeth Hyde's article about where she has been and what she's doing? So obviously you would read the item there. Now what you're trying to do is you're trying to make sure that you hit these descriptors here. So you need to offer evidence that you fully understand. You need to show a detailed engagement with the text. Now the engagement there basically means not only do you understand it, but you can kind of work with it. So if, for example, the person is saying they've done a certain thing, maybe you can actually pick out how proud they were with it or some of the difficulties. You don't just pick out the pure facts, you understand what the writer is trying to tell you. You engage with it that way. So it's almost like you can respond to, as an audience would be expected to respond to something like, whether it's supposed to be something emotional or sad, etc. Make perceptive connections and comments about people, places and events. So basically, if something is referenced or given some kind of detail, then obviously if they say it was a cold and barren, then if the place was mentioned as cold and barren, then you might actually be able to pick out and say that it was difficult circumstances for her and a team, or whatever the case may be. Offers appropriate quotations or references to support understanding. So basically here offers appropriate quotations. I mean, that word appropriate basically means you not only are you picking out something that's very relevant, you're also picking out something that's concise. That's really important. You're not going to pull out like whole chunks of text as you go through. Now obviously we're just going to be looking at the high level stuff, so that's if you want the 7 and 8. I think it's still going to be the same. You're going to need 4 or 5 marks on each at least, just over about 55-60% of the mark to get a C, and then obviously for an AA star you're going to need to get most of them. So basically if you look at those kind of 4 points there, I mean, they're actually quite straightforward once you know what it is you're supposed to do. So we'll look at very briefly some of the things that may include. Now all this was the kind of stuff in the text, so if you'd have got in about 4 or 5 of any of these points, you'd be doing quite well. Obviously the more you put in the better, but remember you have to pick it out and explain it, because you want to be able to pick out, get the evidence, and also engage with it to show an explanation of it. So for example, they picked out for this one, just so you get an idea of what to kind of write: Elizabeth Hyde went rafting and she went there, who went with her, how long they spent, where they were, what they were actually doing while they were there. She went with the amount of people again, and her feeling there, the engagement, she was surprised, and the closer the others meant there was little privacy. She describes it as spectacular. So again, you can see all the way through that she's what the examiner is expecting from you is the evidence to show that you've understood, because these are all things she did, the engagement to actually show how she felt and the connections she was making, and the connections about people and places. So for example, she had a Disney-like experience, so they're like, in whatever it is she was doing, it actually felt like she had a Disney-like experience. Now you notice each one of these kind of is backed up with a quote. Let me just make sure that I'm not lying to you there. Okay, so that one doesn't, that one doesn't, that one does, that one does, that one does, that one does. Obviously this would be boring if I keep doing it, but you see a lot of them there, apart from where it's just cold hard facts, just kind of backed up with quotations. And obviously all these would be in quotations as well, because where else would you get it from? So hopefully all that there shows you how you'd get the 7 to 8 marks there. You want to make sure that you've got the evidence picked out that you've understood. That's what you're trying to show first and foremost, and try and show you've understood as much as possible. It's a basic kind of rewriting element, but you have to show that you understand the writer's point of view, because the question is, what do you learn from her article about where she's been and what she's been doing. So the where and the what there are really important, and obviously the learning, so you're learning in that kind of nice vague word to let you to allow you to put in all your perceptions and show your engagement with it. So hopefully that kind of question covered.